Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh Srivastava. Please do subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates, and conversations with the top-notch CHROs. Today, we are going to discuss and analyze the first quarter results of financial year 2024, and the data which is shared and reported by the India's top IT companies like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and HCLTech. To decipher the first quarter results and to anticipate that what would be the future of IT industry in coming quarters in the financial year 2024, we have three senior panelists. Let me introduce Ms. Usha Chirai. She is Senior Director, Human Resources at Reflections Infosystems. Mr. Milind Mutalik, he is HR consultant and former Chief People Officer at Ecolite Digital, and Ms. Aparna Mishra, she is Senior Manager, Customer Engagement and Sales at HCLTech. Milind, if we look at the data, so there are 3D actually. One is the drop in net profit, there's a drop in headcount, and also drop in attrition. That is good point in attrition, but these two drop in net profit and drop in headcount, these are bothering. If you look at the net profit, the TCS has announced around 11,074 crore net profit for this financial year 2024 first quarter, and for the financial year 2023 fourth quarter, it was 11,392 crore. For the Infosys, there is again drop in fourth quarter. It was 6,128 crore. And in the first quarter, this is 5,945 crore. And similarly with the HCL and Wipro, there's a drop in the net profit. If you compare with the fourth quarter of last financial year and the first quarter of this financial year of 2024. But if you compare with the first quarter of financial year 2023 last year, so there's no drop. Then there's a profit. Yeah, the figures are bigger than the first quarter figures are bigger than the first quarter of financial year 2023. How do you decipher this data, and how do you see the future of IT industry, and how do you anticipate the results for the next coming 3 more quarters?
Thanks, Romesh, for inviting us to share our thoughts on this platform, and happy to be even interacting with the other panelists. So point is, if you look at the whole scenario, I'll go top down rather than bottoms up. You've come with the numbers, but these numbers have come based on some of the things or some of the context which has happened around us. Okay, we got out of the pandemic, and that being a reason, we all have seen even the cycle of great resignations, and we hiring the people at the higher cost. Now, stabilizing the whole thing was happening in the year 2023. And at the same time in 2023, the impact has started happening out of US economy. Now, everyone knows that in US economy, or for that matter, when you look at the outsourcing happening to India, be it, top 10 IT organizations, the major business, 30% of our outsourcing is coming out of the banking financial services. Further, about 18 to 20% comes out of the healthcare. Okay, next about, again, 18 to 20% comes out of telecom. Now, if you look at these three sectors typically, and the companies you named, they're either focused on this area, like Infosys would be majorly focused on the BFSI versus, HCL would be onto a technology, and, Wipro would be an IT infrastructure services. So the point is, the overall budgeting is, or the spend has been reduced out of US with the economic condition. We have been reading the news about some of the top banks failing there. Now, when you look at how did it, impacts our numbers, if you see in US, 3 banks together, okay, if they are going to fail and, kind of get about, 300, 400 billion out of the market of the assets, or rather there's no movement on that assets, then it impacts the caution immediately starts on the spending. While that was happening, we are all listening to US as well as UK economy not doing so well with the, recession and other areas of a problem. I think if you look at every organization, be it TCS, Infosys, Tech Mahindra, Wipro, everybody has given caution right in the beginning of 23, saying there is a global slowdown and we feel that's something which is going to impact their numbers. So this is definitely not a surprise. I would say people were anticipating this is going to happen. However, I'm going away a little from our numbers, but would try to bring in last 2 decades. I've been into the IT industry, okay, typically IT services industry. And what I see is this is not the new thing for the IT services industry. If you look at, I'll not go back to 2008, but if you look at 2012, 13, 14, we have had a slowdown. And if you look at the Indian point of view on this particular slowdowns, we are much better as compared to what we have had in 2012, 13, 14. Okay. Leave about pandemic, that was not the time where anybody can discuss about the numbers. It was more of survival rather than numbers. So out of pandemic, when we came in, the numbers started looking good because there was a lot of work which has stopped, had to be accelerated. And that being a reason that action was. While we were doing that, everybody had to run by the market and by the demand to employ the talent. Everybody employed a talent which impacted their margins by 20%, 20 points rather, I would say. And this is the reason there is a start of laying off the employees who would really not be really adding up to the revenue. Okay. The impact is very much there, or a slowdown is very much there, with the reason that if my customers are reducing the spends, I have nowhere to go but to see that how I can optimize my resources by which I'm able to, kind of better protect my bottom line. Also, while doing that, every organization, be it Infosys, be it Wipro, have announced their investment in the new technologies. Now, this is what I take as a leaf out of the thing, saying that there's a positivity which they would see if they move to a new technologies. So while I'm talking about the future, which I will stop at this point of time, I'll allow other panelists to speak about it. But I'm talking about the future. I'm sure 2024 second quarters onwards, I'm very hopeful based on the, some of the reading which I've done, or some of the, trends which are coming from Gartners, and some of the economists out of US have been giving a lot of positive strokes, saying that the recovery would start happening by second quarter of 2024. Okay, I'll stop at this point of time. I'll ask other panelists to contribute, and I'll come back to you again when the next question comes up.
Usha, first, I would like to know your opinion on this data about the drop in net profit. Second, also, I would like to bring another data in your notice that headcount is also, there's a drop in headcount as well. Addition of headcount, especially if you look at the numbers. So the SCL has announced it is around, the current headcount is 6,15,318. So there is an addition of 500 people in this first quarter if you compare with the fourth quarter. But if you look at the numbers in Infosys and Wipro, so there is a drop of 7,000 people almost. And in HCLTech, that is also a drop of 2,000 people. If you compare with the fourth quarter of last financial year and first quarter of this financial year 2024. How do you decipher this data, and how do you see what are going to be the HR challenges in IT industry?
Yes, Romesh, just like Milind spoke about the macroeconomic trends, it was only a time when these were bound to happen. But you'll notice that all these comparisons of numbers are versus last quarter of the last year, or just the similar quarter a year ago. That was when the pent-up demand had been released and people were hiring all over the place, and hiring in excess almost because of all the anticipated demand. Now, this has been a slowdown. We've been speaking about it for some time, about the slowdown, the recession. With all the global crisis happening, it was bound to happen. So all these comparisons are versus a previous time when things were going upward. And now it's obvious that because of the slowdown in demand, increase in bench sizes, pressure on margins, it was bound to happen. Also, on the point of hiring, Hiring is usually in anticipation of projects or because the bench has been depleted. Now, when you're not having projects lined up as before, it's bound to slow down. Also, the dual impact of attrition, because attrition has slowed down, we don't have as much of backfill hiring happening. And people are cautious. They do not want to hire too much of campus recruits either, unless they see a steady pipeline of projects. So all these factors combined, it is but obvious that hiring trends have gone down. But like Milind mentioned, it is not as bad as 2008. We are still kind of much better off than before, because there is hope that, like in certain areas like AI or data or engineering, people are hiring or they are selectively upskilling their bench to make sure that there's greater utilization of the talent that they already have. So two things that HR also as a net result has to do is ensure that people stick through. When there is bad news about projects being shelved or projects being delayed, people usually panic and leave. So one thing is to keep a steady form of communication to make sure that people don't panic and leave. They should be reassured that there will be other projects available for them. And the second part is, if we invest in upskilling, that's when people believe and trust that there is a long-term career in the organization. So what if an outdated skill is no longer required? They do have an opportunity, and if the company is willing to invest in them, I'm sure they would also stay back and contribute and therefore become productive overall.
Aparna, I share two data. One data is related to the drop in net profit, and another data is related to the drop in headcounts. Of course, there's an uncertainty in market. Of course, there is a delay in the projects. So how do you decipher the business challenges in the financial year 2024 for the IT industry? And if you look at the HCLTech, especially, if you want to comment on this.
First of all, thank you, Romesh. I mean, as I already mentioned, I'll be talking on my personal capacity, but yes, there is a, when I think both my co-panelists have really added in amazing pointers, and we really don't need anything to talk about more on the net profit side, because of course we are comparing something which was just immediate after the pandemic. And we were already anticipating this because of three big reasons, which was global recession, a Russian energy crisis, which was between, the Ukraine and Russia war, and very much important, a banking crisis that Mr. Milind has already touched upon. I mean, all of this were giving us a sign that it is going to largely affect the business also. And when we talk about any and every HR function start working when businesses anticipate that, okay, this is what is the order booking is, this is what my work look like, and I may need this kind of benches or a kind of associates to give me these services. So when we talk about a fresh talent, which mostly in the bench you look for, or a kind of consultants who actually go to a second-hand level, till the time the projects are not in a regular cycle, or if you see a delay in a quarter, for example, we are experiencing, I mean, nothing to say with respect to HCL only, but I'm sure all the IT services, because I recently, been a part of one of the network event where I heard a lot of my panelists from me talking about that, how they are actually experiencing a delay in their projects which are non-business oriented or not directly affecting the revenues. So for an example, non-critical projects around the cybersecurity are kept in the side border. They are very important, but not given a priority. So of course, you will not get an order booking. A quarter delay will also give a delay in the anticipation of how many numbers you want. So all those assumptions are pushing it, and that will definitely lead to a certain delay. So this, whatever is happening was aware. If you talk specifically about HCL, we're still doing wonders because the numbers are being added only. And recent, our CFOs and CPOs, who I'm not the spokesperson for the same, but have actually shown a very amazing result. But when you largely talk about the industry, yes, very much pointed by Usha that this is not going to happen only with a number of perspectives. The business has to talk the same language. So if you ask me in that sense, my point is very much similar. We just have to wait for one more quarter in this sense, and we will start getting a reassurance of the things coming. And if you ask again, then how much it is, your second question, if you want to repeat on, but to my understanding, you wanted me to talk about how it is actually affecting to a certain area in businesses. It is definitely not affecting to a direct level. Of course, we are a little slow down. The businesses are experiencing slowdown, but then if you generally go for any business process kind of a stuff, you will understand that management people are not facing that kind of a difficulties where engineering are facing. Because any and every project wherein the hiring happens, usually the low-level bench, the lateral people don't experience that kind of frictions that easily. If you are skilled, which you added, please upskill yourself. If you're skilled, they'll not touch you. The people, those who are bench, are usually getting touched once you're not that skilled, probably with the AI, the latest skills that are required, the data. For that matter, I've recently attended something which they were talking about quantum computing. And we have still way beyond to talk about it. And people have started working. Meta has already experienced something around it. And very soon I'm experiencing that organizations like IT services and consulting will start implementing it. Cloud and all, we are already seeing. So if you're actually looking at the right stuff, we have been actually talking about upskilling yourself with the right thing. Nobody's replacing or anything is happening or any kind of bench is going down. These are only the people who are not ensuring that they have to take certain kind of steps. And yes, we are at a good shape for now. I mean, we are still doing better and looking forward to understand how 2004 quarter is going to help us. So that's what is my way out of it.
Milind, if you look at the data again for the attrition part, so that is easing up. That's a good sign, maybe for the IT industry. Earlier, we have seen the attrition that is close to 30%, but now it is easing up. And the TCS has reported this is a 17.8% the attrition for this first quarter. Infosys has reported also 17.3% and Wipro 19.2% and HCLTech that is 16.3% somehow. How do you see the hiring? How do you see the hiring would be in coming quarters? If you look at the especially lateral hires, so because we have seen also somehow in some companies like TCS, earlier they reported that they are delaying the some onboarding of the laterals. Then they started their joining. How do you see what would be the scenario in coming quarters for the lateral hires?
Okay, so it's a very valid point. The attrition is coming down because one of the trend which all of us are seeing globally, there is a lot of layoffs. Okay, right from the biggies in their technology at US have got rid of many people. And if you look at statements which are coming from the ex-CEOs and others, they say 24,000 plus tech employees have got, kind of laid off in last 15 months. There are various sites which are chasing it up and etc. I want to point out a little different aspect and coming back to then your point on the TCS, Cognizant, TCS, Infosys and others. If you look at May 15th, 2023, there was a layoff article which has come in Economic Times, which talks about some of the companies which have laid off the folks. Okay. Example, EduTech, there are 15 companies in India, likes of Byju's, Vedantu, Unacademy, and Whitehead Junior, etc., have got rid of 8,000 employees. Okay. Then coming to consumer services companies likes of Ola, Blinkit, Oyo Hotels and all got rid of 5,000 employees. E-commerce, 8 companies, Car24, Meshos and others got rid of 2,500. Fintech, 7 companies, Wazirex and others have got rid of 500. And healthcare, 5 companies like of MFin, Healthify.me, InnoCare, Pharma Easy got rid of 1,000 folks. Now this number itself comes to about 17,000. This has got nothing to do directly with the economic recession of US or UK. This has got to do with the internal consumption in India, or for that matter, these are majorly platforms which are newly started with the funding which was coming from their, so-called investment organizations or the PEs which are, majorly out of US and UK. Okay. Look at one more point. What has happened? The whole of a market kind of shrunk because there are many layoffs and majority of the talent available. This was one of the force. Always in the attrition, we as a HR professionals, we talk about 2 factors. One is a push factor, another is a pull factor. at the macro level, I'll say. Now, earlier, there was a pull factor when there was a great resignation. Today, there's a push factor of a layoff. Okay. Now, balancing between this, majority of the folks would like to hold tight for some time because they don't see the lucrative proposal coming in the market. Because of the layoff which are coming out of the US organizations, as well as this kind of organizations which are startup, which I would say about 43 organizations which I just read about, have got rid of 17,000 employees. This has created actually excess of a stock in the market. And that directly reflects on a top 10 IT organizations at India of people not jumping here and there. This trend will continue next year too. However, if the demand rises, okay, there would be a chance that two sources will be used as a pipeline. One is obviously a campus, and we'll talk about it as we go ahead. And the second one is obviously either a outsourced services, service contractors, or a gig. Now that's going to come in. But this is not the scenario which would remain like, there would be a mix of a lot of combinations which will be tried as we go ahead. Because are we really able to deliver whatever is there with us at the best level? I don't know. At this point of time, I wouldn't comment, because the new deals which are being won by these companies are few. They are not more. There is one which has been declared by Infosys very recently for 5 years deal with BP on AI and others. But Wipro has not talked about big deals. Rest of the organizations have not talked about big deals. So the point is, today it's a situation of wait and watch by the employees and the organization. However, the dynamics will change as we go, probably in the second quarter of 2024, when there is a global forces in a context which will change. If there's a revival of some of the startups into EduTech and others, if there's a demand by others, and the whole of a workforce today, again, going into little details, not directly talking on numbers, if you look at the pyramid of these organizations, top 10 be TCS with 6 lakh plus employees, or, rest of the organization, they would have their productive manpower standing between 3 years to about 12 years, maybe 10 years kind of a thing. And this would be about 75 to 80% of the employees. Now, if you look at the age profile of these employees, they would be anywhere in the range of maybe 28, 30 years going up to 40, 41. Now, these are the stable ages where people do not want to jump so much unless there is a great opportunity. And now, post the pandemic, there's definite change in the thought process also. There are folks who are on the one side of the parameter where they're wanting a work-life balance and want to leave the job and do something. There are other ones who would like to have a stabilized kind of a work-life balance and work with it. Okay, I think there are multiple dynamics which are currently working on. So when we predict about 2024, we'll have to wait till second quarter of 2024 to see how the whole thing changes for us. Okay. However, is it a great sign to not have the big attrition? I don't think I will agree to it. Okay, when there is a good movement, what is the right attrition? Every company has a different norm. Again, because every organization goes for the attrition formula their own way. However, these big companies have not done any layoffs, but would be interesting to know whether the layoffs are coming into the attrition or it comes as an action taken by them as so-called desirable attritions by them.
So, Usab, as we discussed, and I shared the data as well about these 4 top IT companies in India. So, what do you think is the impact of global recession that has started here in India as well? And how do you see its impact in hiring part in coming quarters?
Because of the global conditions, I'm sure everybody is going cautious, be it a person who's planning to join an organization or a person who's planning to leave. So just like Milind mentioned, in the past, we used to meet candidates who were shopping for offers. They would pick out of 6 offers, they would pick one final based on whatever criteria they had in mind. Currently, because of the decline in offers, people at best get 2 offers and then they decide basis the job content or location. So no longer is it a recruitment friendly atmosphere in the market, and so people are cautious. this definitely impacts the attrition numbers as well. People who are looking for a steady career will not move every 2-3 years unless the offer outside is extremely lucrative. In the past, people were willing to give exorbitant numbers in terms of hikes. That has definitely dipped again. So people will not be that much in a hurry to move. Of course, the very skilled top talent or very specialized areas, they will still continue to move. And that is what is contributing to the 15 to 17% numbers that you just quoted. Of course, in the upcoming quarters, we see this is not going to be an overnight change. There are delays in offers. In fact, I belong to an organization which is in the small and medium kind of scale of organizations. And we do notice that in some of the projects that we're bidding for, we are actually competing with the big IT companies. In the past, they would not have bid for smaller projects, but now we see that because of the pressure on the big companies, they are entering the space of the small and medium enterprises as well. So we don't see this changing. Increased competition will be the order of the day. And it is honestly a survival of the fittest that is going to emerge even in the next few quarters.
Usha, already because there is uncertainty in the market, because there is a delay in project. So as you see the drop in headcount, so these this drop in headcount, that is only for the these are the direct numbers, permanent employees only. Other companies are trying to shift their focus on the temp employees. Let's have the temp employees, let's have the gig workers, because there's an uncertainty. So this is real drop in headcounts, or this just shift from the permanent employees to let's have the more number of temp employees, let's have more gig workers. What do you think?
I think it's a mix, because it's not just overall headcount dipping. Some of them are reinvesting in temp or gig workers because it helps in the uncertain situation to have the skills, but at a pace where they can offload if the demand is not there. However, I do see a dip overall, even in the hiring of gig workers, at least in the few companies that I've spoken to.
Purna, because there is a dip in demand, because there is uncertainty, because there is a impact of the globalization. So of course, the campus hiring, that is also going to be impacted somehow. How do you see what could be the impact on the campus hiring? And added question would be that what would be the impact of those who have been already hired but not onboarded at? So what is your opinion on this?
So this is a very sensitive and peak topic for this season, because the coming season is about to start. I think in many of the South, if we see, the campus has already started. Usually the day starts from post 15th of July or so. But onboarding is a time when, the June end or a May end, it all starts. We are seeing from 3 months to 6 months of minimum delay in any and every organization that has given offers. And I'm specifically talking with respect to campus. There are eventually good organizations, very amazing organizations who have kept their offer either on hold, deferred, completely delayed, given a time span of 3 to 11 months in between. If student is able to make an offer anywhere, they don't have any problem. They're okay with any and every salary packages they want to negotiate with. This gives a very clear picture that the coming or the season that we are looking at for the campus is not very great. I'm also hearing a news from any and every campus, especially in the north side, where the blabbering has already started, that when to start the campus and how the impact is going to look. So many of the organizations have dripped the number by 60-70%. And I'm sure Usha would agree to this, that if the number has been 100, now it's only 20 which is going to come out. And this is just an hypothetical number I'm giving you, because we also know the organizations like IT services, where the numbers are usually in thousands for 35,000, 40,000 in the year, and which are now have came down to 10,000, 12,000, and which are the larger number which we have already anticipated by the CPOs of the organizations. And when it comes to product, the numbers has even come down to a single digit. So I'm definitely seeing a higher impact and a huge competition, because if the IITs of the world are actually fighting, so there are private colleges who are already, providing an amazing quality kind of a student. So the fight is very heavy. The number timings are very short, because now it's all about who can give what kind of student in what sort of places. And in this whole scenario, the students are the one, because the past batch is yet not embodied. You have to give them another option so that they feel safe. And the new batch is already sitting on your head, where the numbers are really important. And this is going to be even more crucial for the institutions where numbers are pretty high. I mean, I don't want to name them. We are very much aware of the institutions play in the numbers of thousands. But this is even a tougher game for them, because this year, even IT services companies have numbers which are shortened. So they're not going to go and take 2,000 from one place or a 500 from one place. The numbers are pretty low. So yes, a tough game will start soon. We'll see the numbers in the first quarter. I'm not very hopeful. I saw it's very stressful for all these. I mean, I'm already hearing students scream and tell which skills, what to start, which, of course, we always talk about, because conversions are also not happening. Even if you are doing internships with a great organizations, you're not anticipating that you will get a full-time role out of it. Even those who have received, they haven't. And for the current. So even saying that you have a great internships, it's guaranteed. No, nothing is guaranteed for this quarter. Wait for at least 6 months of a time. If post Diwali something picks up, which is usually a second season for campuses. So that's where the magic will begin. But yes,
would like to add here something? How do you
yes,
see that?
I want to add. I want to add on this. Obviously, everybody is cautious and ensuring that they should able to match with what their demand pipeline and accordingly. Few things which have been done by many organizations is they are trying to make them business ready during this period. So they are entering into the campuses, trying to provide trainings to them, see that what are the practical aspects which could be done. There are some of the universities in North who are giving you interns for 9 months to 11 months. Okay. Now at a very low cost, it could be 20,000 per month to 45,000 per month, depending on what kind of organization role and other things. What will happen? Everybody will have to reinvent to see that how best you're fitting into the game. So two things we started very clearly, I'm saying, is one is making them industry ready. Are we able to, suddenly if the things, starts working at the accelerated rate, do we really want to be into the same cycle of giving 40%, 100%, 150% increase, or do we really create some buffer here? So many organizations are working, because see, obviously you can't get rid of a campus hiring team and the team which is working on a lot of other aspects of campus. So what do you do is use them for the so-called heydays or the better days which will come in, and make the campus ready, improve the qualities of the resources which you're going to hire, and get the longer term of an internship where you don't have to pay them big money or do a commitment to them, and still be have the relationship on. So this is one more thing which I've seen which is happening. Yeah, but go ahead.
You know what? I think Milind has actually bang on a point where there are organizations who are actually stepping in, and they are in a kind of support, and they want to ensure that the resources are actually ready for the coming days, or the days when the actual hiring starts, with respect to campus or lateral, or the students who are actually into their sabbaticals and taking a next level of support for their old career journeys. So any and every time that engagement is happening, irrespective, there is no commitment for the numbers so far. Most of the organizations don't have visibility of campus numbers, at least. Even if they have not openly come up. So Milind's point make a very huge impact to a level. I mean, let me support you to a heavy time, but there is no commitment associated with us. So we are living together without a future, just to see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's really an amazing strategy for the current campus. Just wanted to add that.
And Usha would like to add something on internship, impact on internship and the freshers hiring.
Unfortunately for the freshers, they are under deep pressure. I've seen many people offering to take up unpaid internships just to get the exposure, because they are aware that in comparison to other candidates, at least they can add a few internships on their resume. to get hired when the season becomes better. There is also the trend of taking up a lot of certifications to make sure that they have an edge over other candidates, so that when in subsequent quarters, they wouldn't have wasted their time. They would have either got exposure hands-on or through certifications, and thus they have an edge, which is the wise thing to do while they wait it out.
Usha, the companies also started sharing the data that how many employees are working from the office, how many employees they're expecting that they start working from the office in next quarters. How do you see the trend maybe in next couple of quarters for the work from office?
I think it's a definite increase in the numbers that are going up, because during the pandemic, it was the norm that you work from home. And now, as things subside and there is no health scare, the only thing that has to be overcome is the inertia. So there are people who have gone back to hometown and have settled there. So they have to get out of their comfort zone to come back to work. It is not easy for people with personal commitments, but the majority are slowly aligning to the company request to come back and be at office for at least 3 days in a week. That trend is increasing and it will continue to increase. In Bangalore, there was a news article which spoke about the pressure on our outer ring road traffic, which has gone up significantly just because of this mandate of return to office. And that is proof that the trend is increased and will continue to increase.
So, Milind, we tried to discuss the first quarter results. We tried to anticipate about the hiring, what would be the impact on hiring, campus hiring, and the work from home. We tried to cover these all the points. So, anything else which is important would like to discuss, would like to share?
I see. Typically, I was reading a report from Gartner, and this is where we are saying, what is the light at the end of the tunnel? Gartner, in their report, global spend on IT in 2024 talks about big numbers. They say data centers would be having the increased spend of 6.1% over last year. Then it comes to software, they're saying there's going to be 11% increase in their spend. Now, data centers growth, they are talking about a number of something like 0.23 billion. Whereas when it comes to software, it is 0.75 billion increase from what they were earlier in totality, global level. I think India today plays about 57 to 58% of outsourcing pie from the world outsourcing. Okay, and that's something which NASSCOM says. So I'm trying to put in a bit of a complexities which we have in India. I will just complete one or two more things. IT services, it says, going to be 10% increase over last year, coming to about 1.5 billion. And communication services on the similar lines of 1.5 billion. I think this is exactly what I'm saying is huge optimism which has been put in with the spending. Now, what happens actually, we'll have to wait and watch. However, NASSCOM, if you look at NASSCOM report very recently, which has been published for 2023, tech industry, including hardware, we have done 255 billion of revenue. Now, look at the numbers we have. We have 35,000 firms in India which are producing this. Okay. We have 5.4 million employees which are being employed. And last year, the net addition is 290K. About 40% of this is impacted by the top 10 or 15 IT organizations from India. The revenue, which I would say, or even the employee headcount, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCLTech, Mahindra, and then the multinationals who are having Accenture India, you have Cognizant for that, IBM India, Oracle, Deloitte. This picks up 40%. So your 40% of trend is based on these organizations. 1,570 global capability center. Now imagine this is something a big one which we have. Global capability center is more of IT services center captives are being set up here. 27K tech startups. And one of the best thing to talk about is 266K tech patents are filed by us. Now, this is something which is going to definitely give us a lot of, I'm saying a very big hope on what we will be able to do. 110 billion of e-commerce market, 57 to 58% of share into global sourcing, outsourcing, and 36% of women employees. I think we have really reached a level where the complexities which we are going to drive, or the technologies we are going to drive, we are on really a prepared side. So it's just a chance and we'll able to really encash it best. So I'm very optimistic when it comes to the 2024 that we will, turn back the table and we'll come back in a big way.
Thank you for sharing such a very optimistic data after the discussion, the impact of the discussion and so global impact. Usha, what would be your concluding remark as a HR challenges for the IT industry, what you foresee, and any other, if you have any point in mind?
Yeah, so we can't turn a blind eye that the current phase is tough. There is going to be a pressure on spending. We cannot exceed our budgets on any discretionary spend, be it engagement or other initiatives. We know that several big companies have either deferred their salary hike circles, or they have reduced the amount of variable pay. So this phase will continue, but like the good old book says, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I'm sure the IT industry, with the critical mass that it has built, will thrive, but it is after a few quarters.
And Aparna, what are your final comments?
I'm very happy to see the figures that Milind has quoted and the positivity that Usha has showcased. And I would add on only one thing, because I come from a GCC background now. I directly work with goodwill capability centers under captives. And the order bookings that we are giving is giving me a kind of light which says that, okay, we are toward the right side. And yes, very well mentioned, NOSCOM has actually given a recent data where 1,500 plus organizations from the international has already voted in. If you talk about initiative, which is, Indian initiatives, where a lot of international organizations, which were actually planning to go to China, either are looking at India or Vietnam as in, source or options. So, there is a huge competition, but then simultaneously, a lot of work is happening, which is giving us a huge positivity also. So, of course, it's all about keeping the right patience, ensuring that you test your niche, you understand what exactly gives you a right kind of interest, because, ballistically looking at everything and ensure it can be a tough, it has to be given some kind of point that, okay, I'm only looking at this area. The certification, the kind of points we are looking at, all of this will add up to a kind of niche we are looking. And immediately, once the season works out in our favor, once the quarter's opening, the results that we are looking at will be, I'm sure we are all waiting for that thing to happen. So magic is about to happen anytime.
So thank you so much, Milind. Thank you so much, Usha, and thank you, Aparna, for joining the conversation and analyzing the data and sharing a wonderful thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you.
Thank you.